Hey guys, my name is David and welcome back to episode 18 of Grimm Tuesdays. Today's tale I'm going to be talking about is called The Owl, and of course this is by the Brothers Grimm. The fairy tale The Owl is a very basic story that is about just over 2 pages long. There isn't much to the story. It's very basic, but it discusses about how us as humans and as a society and as a civilization, we fear what we don't understand. We are terrified of what we don't fully comprehend, and we let our imagination run away with us, and we can let the most innocent and small things scare us. So the owl is obviously about a group of these large owls. I think they are fictional owls. I'm not really sure. I'm not really much of an owl expert. But there is a town that has a forest nearby, and one of these big owls flies out of the forest and into a barn where it innocently roosts and makes a nest and makes itself comfortable. It's described as not being a vicious owl, not being an evil owl, not hurting anyone, not doing anyone any harm. It's just gone into this barn to make a nest and rest and all that stuff. So essentially this owl isn't evil and it's just minding its own business. And let's be honest, it's probably going to be moving on back to the forest or the woods really shortly as well. It's probably gone into this barn to have some warmth and shelter and all that stuff. So one day this servant goes into the barn. I'm not sure if the book explains about why the servant goes into the barn, but he does, and because it's really dark in this barn, he sees these two eyes and this shadowy shape in the barn, and the servant blows it out of proportion and thinks that he's seen a monster. He's terrified and he runs out of the barn, and he goes to his master and tells him, look, there's a monster in the barn. He's hysterical and he says, look, you're probably making it up. You probably, thought you saw something, but okay, I'll go in and I'll check it out and I'll see what's what. So the master goes into the barn, and like the servant, he comes out screaming his head off and completely terrified about what he has seen, or what his brain registered that he thought that he saw. So shortly after this, the master goes into the town and assembles this angry mob, this group of individuals, to go to the barn, because at that point they are convinced that there's a monster living in that barn, and if they don't do anything, this monster will come out and ravage the town and cause destruction and chaos and murder and all that usual stuff. So this group of individuals goes to the barn, surrounds it, and one of these brave men, well, he's described about being brave, goes by himself in this armor, I think it is, and he carries a weapon, like his pole or something, and he goes into the barn, and of course he comes out screaming, and several people go in there, several groups of individuals go in there, and they all result in them coming out screaming their heads off. And this story just results in them saying, well, we've tried, no one is brave enough to defeat this monster, or this so-called monster. We cannot defeat it, we cannot conquer it, we cannot chase it out and be rid of it. So they come to the conclusion that the only way to be rid of this so-called monster is to set the barn on fire and burn it alive. And that's what they ultimately do. They set this barn on fire, and the owl burns alive, or burns, yeah, you actually get the point, it gets roasted. I just want to make a point here, guys, a very, very important point, is that whenever anyone goes into the barn, this owl isn't hostile, it isn't violent to anyone that goes into this barn. It isn't vicious, it doesn't attack anyone, it just sits there and does bugger all. It probably moves a bit, but it never shows any hostility or violence towards anyone. So essentially it's just sitting on its arse, minding its own business, and everyone that comes into the barn is overreacting and screaming their heads off, and yeah, thinking that they've seen something that they have clearly misunderstood. So that is essentially what the story of the owl is. It's very short, it's very sweet. It isn't as in-depth as any of the other Grimm fairy tales, but it does have a very poignant message that is very true to what humans are. We fear what we don't understand. If something's new to us, we are more likely to fear it rather than trying to understand it and trying to uncover the truth behind it. So yeah, that's all I really had to say, guys. That's basically it, really. I could go on and on and on about this story, but yeah, that's essentially what it's all about. I mean, let me know if you have heard about this story. Let me know if you read this as a child. So yeah, with all that out the way, I will see you guys in my next video.